Welcome back to the channel, and as you could probably imagine, with all the auto shows closing because of the coronavirus epidemic, automakers have kind of went different ways with debuting the new cars. And one of the ways they're doing is live stream. And that's what Hyundai did with this new Elantra. And we're going to talk about whether the changes were made for better or worse. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is the Elantra does look bigger, and that's because it is. It's sitting on an entirely new platform this year. We're going to talk about the size differences in just a second, but let's talk about the looks first. Immediately, I thought this was a Hyundai Sonata, and it's not. It's an Elantra, but it does resemble the Sonata a lot, at least to me. Let me know if you think it does or it doesn't. But I feel with this look that they've taken the sportiness away from it and kind of going more with a luxurious kind of a look. It's sleeker, it's longer, like I said, it resembles the Sonata. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the front end. I'm not a fan of how low the grille is going, but then the headlights sweep up into the fender. It's almost like it has horns, but I don't feel like it's really flowing well together. I'm not even sure how to describe it. But just something about the front end is just not doing it for me. Now, I do like the rear of the car a lot more. It does flow well. I feel like everything's a nice cohesive design, but it, again, still reminds me of the Sonata. And I kind of want something that departs from the Sonata, something a little different, something a little sportier maybe. I feel like they have two of the same car, but in different sizes. Now, I did mention it was sitting on a totally new platform for this year, and it does make it one of the largest cars in its segment. The new platform actually extends the length by 2.2 inches, makes it 1 inch wider, and gives it a 0.8 inch longer wheelbase. Now, if you're a tall person like me, you're going to appreciate that because you're going to get a lot more legroom in the front seat and the back seat. Now, Hyundai has taken it above and beyond when it comes to the interior of this car. It is very impressive. Now, the steering wheel has a very unique 4-spoke design and has aggressive notches for your 10-2 and 9-3 grip. I like the steering wheel, I really do. I think it's, again, a very unique design. It's something you don't see every day, and it gives it a very upscale look, something much more than you'll see in the other cars of this segment. Now, another thing you'll notice right behind the steering wheel is that the entire gauge cluster is digital. Now, that gauge cluster actually shares one large continuous pane of glass with the infotainment center, which is 10.3 inches in size. Now, that's a very interesting choice to make because in my eyes, that can be both good or bad. From a design standpoint, it looks pretty cool, but let's say one of the screens crack, either on the gauge cluster or the infotainment center. Now you have to replace that entire thing rather than just one or the other. I might be splitting hairs. It may not be that big a deal, but this is just weird little things I think of when I see something like this. Now, an 8-inch infotainment center is standard. The 10.3 is an option. The one thing I will say about the 8-inch screen is it just looks very out of place. If you get the standard 8-inch screen, you have buttons all around the screen, but you still have a plastic frame. And it looks cheap. It looks incomplete. It doesn't fit the rest of the interior. So I would highly suggest opting for the larger infotainment screen. Now, if you notice, there's also this divider on the center console. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I feel like it's isolating the driver and passenger, and I don't see a real need for it. Now, it's just a personal preference of mine. I don't know how you feel. Let me know. But I just think this kind of, again, it isolates the driver and passenger, and it kind of, I don't know, it disconnects you. All right, so let's talk about that powertrain. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder putting out 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque, made it with a CVT transmission. That is pretty disappointing. For what they call a sports sedan, there's not a whole lot of sport there. I am highly disappointed with this engine combination. I figured if they're going to do a whole redesign on a whole new platform, they need to give the car more power and a better transmission, because this is, come on, the Honda Civic now has a turbo engine that's putting out, I think, 185 horsepower. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 185. The Mazda 3 is putting out 185, I think, as well. So this just it doesn't compete with the rest of the cars in the segment. Now, Hyundai did say they were coming out with an N-Line version. If you're unfamiliar with that, it is their sport version. Now, I'm hoping and assuming that this is going to come with a turbo engine, probably a little over 200 horsepower. I'm also hoping that it comes with both a manual and probably a dual clutch transmission. The last Hyundai Elantra Sport came with both of those, the manual and the DCT, and it turned out to be a pretty good car. The only complaint with that was it did not have limited slip. So if they put limited slip in here with those transmissions options and a turbo engine, maybe it could be all right. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, this is kind of hit or miss for me. I'm not sure I'm on board with this design. Make sure you drop your comments down below what you think about that. Also, there is a hybrid variation. The hybrid comes with a 1.6 liter four-cylinder engine with an electric motor assist that produces 43 horsepower for a grand total of 139 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Now, the funny thing about this hybrid is it gets a dual clutch transmission. Why couldn't they put that same dual clutch transmission in the gas version? That probably would have changed everything with that car. We all know a CVT, it doesn't react well, it doesn't drive well, nobody likes them, but they're going to put the nicer DCT in the hybrid. I don't know. I'm confused. But that's what they did, and they're claiming it's going to get more than 50 miles per gallon. Now, standard features for this car are as followed. Forward collision warning, lane keep assist, automatic high beams, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a smartphone digital key system. Now, the car is said to hit dealerships in the fourth quarter of 2020. So there you have it, the new 2021 Hyundai Elantra. Again, for better or worse. Leave your comments down below what you think of it. I'm not 100% on board with it. I think the outgoing model was a lot sportier looking. It looked a lot better. But this is what we're getting. Drop your comments down below what you think. Drop a like on the video and that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll catch you next time.